Reconnecting with the world after an intense couple of months of writing has been an interesting experience. Once I submitted Battleborn Bride to my editors last week, I guess it would have been a week ago today, or yesterday, I went to Utah for the conference and had a wonderful time and enjoyed seeing all my former colleagues and my friends. And it was a very much needed getaway, getting out of the house, seeing a place I hadn't visited before, filling my mind with new experiences that I can draw from when I'm doing my writing in the future. And of course, as always, spending a lot of really good one on one time with JT because, as you know, a couple who are both retired and spending pretty much 24/7 together, aside from his 2 or 3 times a week he goes to Gama Coffee. um, Still, it's nice to sit down and riding in the car. We obviously spent a lot more time interacting than we do at home because we're each puttering around doing our own thing. So overall, that was a very good time away from home. It was a good time to reconnect with the world, to see, like I said, places that I hadn't been before, to see some familiar places, and just to unwind after some really intense writing. So today, I did a little more of that, and I took a copy of my manuscript for Battleborn Bride over to the Nevada State Library and Archives and dropped it off with my friend and former boss because she has some expertise that I'm hoping to draw from. I'm hoping she can give me some advice as to whether I portrayed certain parts of her part of the country appropriately in the book. And it is going to be interesting to see what she has to say about the book because aside from the editors at Red Adept, where we get our editing services done, aside from them, nobody else has seen this manuscript yet, not even JT. I do need to get a copy to him, as well as one to my friend who is a young adult writer. I'm hoping that she can give me some insight as to whether or not I appropriately geared it toward a young adult audience, because I've been writing specifically for adults for quite a while now. So I will have those 3 beta readers plus the person at the editors who will be beta reading, or who is currently beta reading it. And excuse me, I should be getting that back a week from Friday. I did get the proofread copy of Restless Spirits Book 2 back today. I'm not going to look at it right away because I was doing a little bit more yard work, and also I went out to visit the library and say hello to all my fellow former coworkers and friends over there. And I happened to stumble across a retirement party in the lobby because the lobby is a beautiful, expansive space and it's perfect for get-togethers. Aside from the acoustics in there are atrocious. But it is always fun to see people celebrating someone's career, and it reminded me of my own retirement parties, but I didn't attend because I didn't know this person. I know they were from another state agency, and there are quite a few people who are retiring from state government because they go in cycles that people who start out at about the same time, of course, all retire at the same time. And I think it's becoming more common that younger people who work for state government don't stay with state government. They tend to move on instead of retiring. So in the future, I don't know how many people will be retiring. It may be more of a case of people just moving on with their lives and on to new career fields. But it is fun to see the old guard, even though it's a little sad to know that they're leaving and all their institutional knowledge is going with them. But that's just the circle of life. And it was good to get out and see that for myself, that things do continue happening in the world, even when I'm cooped up at home writing my books. So between Restless Spirits 2 and Battleborn Bride, I spent probably 2 to 3 full months at home, aside from a few outings to author events and writers group meetings, and of course to see family, which I will be doing again tomorrow because I've had a request from my grandkids to stop by to see them before they go away for a Memorial Weekend trip. So no work will be done on my book tomorrow, but on Friday I will be working on Restless Spirits Book 2, and I will be starting the cover contest that I haven't yet started because I got a little busy today and distracted. I did do a little bit more yard work, which was fun. We have a small front yard that unfortunately is more weeds than lawn right now. So I was digging up some dandelions and I ran our push mower over the weeds because our electric mower, I think we've had two electric mowers and for some reason they both burned out. So it's not really worth getting another one considering we have really very little lawn to speak of. Like I said, it's mostly weeds. But it was nice to get out in the sunshine. I did walk back and forth to the library and archives because that's what I did when I worked there. I'm about a 15-minute walk, not very far at all. It's about a half mile. And the walk is interesting because I pass through a parking lot that is the site where our house used to be located. And we actually have photographs of when our house was at that site, which is how I know for sure. I found those photographs while I was working at the state archives because the state bought that block in order to build a state building. And it was called the Kincaid Building. And I actually worked in the Kincaid Building for 2 years before we got our house. So it's, you know, life is very strange sometimes. So it's amazing that I walked past, or I actually worked almost exactly on the site where our house used to be located well before we ever bought this house. And I do hopefully have plans to one day write a book about the house and the fact that it was moved a couple of times. And I probably have mentioned this before, but I need to do a little bit more research. So I will be going back to the state library where they have microfilm of newspapers, and I will be going through those newspapers because I have a pretty good time frame in mind of when the house was moved the first time because it's been moved twice. And I think I know where it was first located, but I haven't verified that yet. And I'm obviously not going to write anything about the house until I verified all my facts, as a good researcher would do. But I think I might do that now and again just to get out of the house and say hi to people, and then I can do a little bit of research while I'm there. And I do also plan to check out the State Museum where they have some old Carson City photographs to see if maybe by some chance they caught a photograph of where our house was first located, because it was by a very popular restaurant here in town. And it, or at least that's my assumption, I haven't verified it yet, but there is a resource called Sanborn Maps. They're old Sanborn insurance maps, and they are available through the Library of Congress website. And I found a Sanborn map from 1940 or 1941, which was about when our house was built. And it shows the location based on what I found in a newspaper article, and the configuration of the house is exactly the same as ours. So, aside from having to verify that, that's one piece of information that could mean it is our, or it was our house at that location. But I need a couple more pieces of information just to verify it for sure. I may go to the city at some point and see if they have, they wouldn't probably have information on the house being moved. The reason state government had information about the house was because they bought the property and then they auctioned off the house. But the city might have information on when the house was first built, because I'm not sure what the regulations would have been in the 1940s, but I assume they would have had to file for some kind of permit to build the house. So I'm going to check that out, but I want to get the newspaper article because hopefully, I would suspect our local newspaper has never really had a lot of incredibly exciting news. And I think that the idea of moving a house from one location to another might merit a newspaper article or two. I did find the one where the owner of the house asked the planning commission for permission to move it. It was denied that time because the neighbors in the area where he wanted to move it originally did not want the house there because the person who owned it could not give them a good idea of why they wanted to move it to that particular location. So that's how it ended up over pretty much across the street from the State Library and Archives where I used to work, where the Kincaid building was eventually built. And so I've got a lot of interesting connections to my house before I actually lived in my house. I don't know if that makes any sense, but at least two of the people that used to live in the house were involved in state government in some way, which is not unusual for Carson City because we are the capital of Nevada. So it's just funny how all this kind of information comes together. So I will be venturing out of the house more now that I have the bulk of these two big writing projects done for the year. I am looking at my typewriter right now. It is happily waiting for me to get started on my Spooktober poems, which are coming very soon, but I still need to wrap up a couple of things with my books first. So I don't know if this will happen anytime in May, but I'm thinking maybe June for sure. I will start working on my poems because October, as I've said, will be here before we know it. I really want to get them done this year because I started on them much too late last year to do anything. So it's been another good day all around. I'm happily reconnecting with the world after my self imposed time as a hermit writer. And I'm looking forward to more outings to visit my friends because it's always good to catch up with them. I know some really nice people. They're very sweet. And I worked with some of them for many, many years. And I mean, I feel sometimes that we're more like family than friends because we know each other's spouses, we know about our extended families. And, you know, if you've worked with someone for a long period of time, you get to know them pretty well because during those years when you and your spouse are working in different jobs, each of the spouses gets to know their coworkers because during the days when we're most conscious, that's the time we're spending with these other people. So we also ran into one of JT's former coworkers the other day, and they had a nice little catch-up session. So I'm not the only one who does this, but I'm sure anybody who may be watching this probably would understand completely where I'm coming from, especially if you have retired from a long-time job in a particular field where you spent maybe a lot of time working closely with people. And you know, I do enjoy my retirement very much, but I do have the brief flash of missing my former job because I really did enjoy it. And it just came to a point where it was time for me to move on, which, as I mentioned, other state employees are now doing because there comes a point where you need to move on and make room for younger and more driven people to replace you, I guess. I don't know. Oh, anyway, I hope you've been having a wonderful day, and I thank you for joining me again. Tomorrow, as I said, I will be out and about visiting my family, so I'm not sure what I will be filming. I may do some filming while I'm out and about just to get a little bit of different scenery. You may notice that I'm not in my sunroom today. I was actually down there trying to record, but we've had some neighbors move out and they're cleaning up the property, so it was a bit noisy out in the sunroom. I needed to retire to my guest room slash craft room to get a little peace and quiet to do this. So like I said, we'll see what tomorrow brings. Maybe footage of the drive from Carson City to Reno or something like that. Who knows? But in the meantime, I will talk to you tomorrow. I'm Cassidy Carson, and this is The Life of a Writer. Take care.